Hi there. Today I am going to be sharing some sketchbook ideas with you, but we're going to be focusing on tips on how to not be afraid to ruin your sketchbook. I'm going to talk about my process and how I got comfortable by sketching every day, but also we're going to talk about how to color a drawing you made with acrylic markers and not be afraid of ruining it because acrylic markers give you such flexibility that you can correct most any mistake. We're going to start by using this drawing I just made a little while ago. And I like using acrylic markers because I don't really need to erase that much. My pencil, I don't really, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I don't really need to erase my pencil lines that much when I use acrylic markers. So that's one thing I like. And the other thing is, like I just said, I don't need to worry that much about making mistakes because I know with acrylic paint, I can correct it. And today we're going to use my Ohuhu Nahuku. That's really hard for me to say. My Ohuhu Nahuku acrylic markers because these are my favorite right now. I've been talking about them a lot. You just need to give them a little shake and uncap them, and you're ready to go. They're very opaque. Sometimes I even forget to shake them, I have to be honest. And also because Ohuhu is kindly sponsoring this video, so we're going to use these again, which I'm happy about. I love these. And I'm going to show you my process for coloring. I'm going to share with you and I'm going to show you how I fix mistakes. I feel I'm always showing you and I'm always talking about how great acrylic markers are because you can go over things. But today we're going to focus on that and focus on how to let go of the fear of ruining your sketchbook. That was a very long intro, so let's just get started and get creative. Okay, so it's incredibly quiet in my house today, and for that reason, at least for this page, I'm going to try to talk while I do this instead of doing a voiceover. So here are the markers. And this little puppy I drew is inspired by this AI image I saw. I'm going to put it on the screen. I thought they were cute, so I thought I would make them my own. And because I like dogs, made it into a puppy. Now, I do want to share with you, I took a long time doing this drawing, but it's like I sketched the idea first and I tried things out first. I always do that. So yeah, I want to share with you because I don't want anybody thinking I just go in and magic happens and I've erased and I've drawn. So I have my drawing ready. Take as long as you need to have your drawing ready, and now we're gonna color it. As far as colors, there's 48 colors in the set. That's a nice variety, but I'm still gonna try to choose a limited color palette and kind of see where I go from there. Like I said, you can definitely choose this beforehand, but I just realized I haven't chosen one, so I'm going to do that now. And I want to keep it bright and cheery, and of course it has to have green because I made her, him, it a lettuce head, so I want green in there. These are the colors I'm basically going to use today, and we'll see where that takes us. I just realized I have no clue how to color this, so I'm going to start with the only thing I know how to color today, and that's the lettuce leaves. So I'm just going to start by filling those up. And like I said before, I like using acrylic markers because you can cover the pencil lines. I mean, in what I'm doing right now, you can still see them a little bit, but I know I'm going to add a second layer of paint on top, so I think it's going to be okay. But of course, if you don't want the lines to show, you can always take a kneaded eraser and, oops, and pick up some of that color. But sometimes when I do that, I lose some of the lines, so I don't love that. Okay, so now I have the base color for the lettuce head, and because I didn't plan on how to color this, now I'm thinking, wait, if she is like a mixture between a vegetable, which I love, and a puppy, maybe her color should be greenish. So I'm gonna grab a darker green that I hadn't out that I didn't have out before, and I'm gonna start doing some of the details on her with green. Like I want her ears to be darker, so I'm using the darker green here. Do I want her snout to be this dark? I'm not sure. I know I want the nose to be dark, but do I want this whole thing to be this dark? I'm gonna try a lighter color, and then if I regret it, I can change it. You know what I'm thinking also? It's been a while since I used. Oh, okay. First mistake. I do this a lot, but it's okay. It's okay because we're using acrylic markers. I'm going to be able to fix it. I forget things need to dry. What was I saying? I don't even know what I was saying. I don't know what I was saying. Sorry. I'll probably figure it out once I'm editing. Yeah, I don't want to run my hand through it again. What was I saying? I don't remember. But my idea while I was painting the lettuce head, which I don't know why I didn't finish, was that I'm gonna blend it into her fur like this. Oh, I know what I was saying. I was talking about paper. I haven't used watercolor paper in a while with my acrylic markers, and they work perfectly. But I just realized I like the other paper from my other sketchbook better paired with this one. It just works a little bit better. So, okay. This is why I do voiceovers. See, this is why I do voiceovers because I get confused and I lose my train of thought while I'm creating. Now I have to choose a color that will blend well with the green. So I actually hadn't picked up a color for the fur, the skin. So I'm just gonna use the light yellow and see how that goes and blend it a little bit. And then, yeah, this, because it's a darker color, it's gonna need a lot more layers for it to be covered with this light yellow, but it's working. And see how the yellow picks up a little bit of the green underneath? That's why these colors blend so well. And we'll talk about more tips and tricks on how to avoid this happening if you don't want it to happen, or how to use it for your advantage like we're doing here. And I think, yeah, this yellow is going to work for her. So I'm going to continue to blend and color all of the areas that I know I want to be yellow and green. And I'm happy all of these mistakes happen and that you see me um, not having a plan, like my authentic me, not having a plan for this page, because I really want to show you how, even if you make mistakes, stuff is going to be okay. There's ways to fix it. And if not, you learn something. And I'm also going to be adding a second layer to any part of my drawing that seems streaky. And like I said before, this is probably more because of the paper. I feel when I use the other paper on my spread sketchbook, it's easier not to get lines. And that's because, of course, this paper absorbs more of the moisture of the ink in the marker because it's watercolor paper. But it's okay. I like it. I'm just gonna keep finishing everything that's green. So um, I kind of like the texture a little bit for the leaves. So I'm just going over half of them to get like a different shade. And then I'll draw the details. I was forgetting that I need to do all of the fur. So let me go back to the yellow. And you're going to see as I use it more, it's going to lose that little bit of the green that it picked up from mixing, from blending well before. So yeah, whenever you need to clean these, you just have to run them through a little bit of paper and then they'll be clean. But right now, I actually want to have those bits of green because I want to keep everything consistent, so it's okay. Okay, so something's off with my drawing here. I can tell because the center is not okay. Here, it looks a little bit weird, but I'm gonna let it slide and adjust it a little bit with the markers, and that's it. Now, I'm not sure what color to use to create the veining on these leaves. I think this is a little bit dark. So I'm gonna bring yet another green to do that. These two may be too similar, so maybe that one, and see how that looks. Because by now you should know, if we don't like it, we're just gonna go ahead and cover it with a different color. But I do want to have this lines, one, to make it more cartoonish, and two, so that we can definitely tell these are leaves. I don't know if you can tell they're lettuce leaves, but that's okay. See, I didn't like that. Let me see what happens if I draw them differently. Do I like that better? I think I do. Like with these chunks of color. And then if I don't, I can always change my mind. So, okay, so I'm going to keep sectioning the leaves and adding details, and then we'll move on to clothing, and then eventually we'll get to fix this. Okay, this one I'm not liking, so I'm going to try to cover it again, let it dry a little bit, and then I'll come back to it to fix it. I don't know. I'm not sure why I'm not liking it, but it's not working for me. So we're going to cover that, let it dry because it wasn't dry enough for me to cover it, honestly. But I'm going to cover it, let it dry, and then come back to add the lines for it. But in the meantime, I want to move on to her little bow that she's wearing on its head. No, actually, I don't know what color to make that one. So I'm just gonna use blue for her overalls, baby blue, because I don't know what colors to use on the rest of things yet. So that's why I'm just gonna move forward to the thing I know the color I want it to be. Okay, I'm gonna risk it and just make the bow red. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna love it, but I want to make it red. I'm thinking maybe what's bothering me from the leaves up here is that they need to have the lighter green that's on its fur. Mm, which I had. Wait, oh, it's because I have yellow. So, okay. So maybe I need to add a couple of yellow lines. Let's see. And then I think what I'm going to do is actually outline them with the dark green, outline everything with the light green. And then it will make more sense, I think. So I realized I'm going to need a little bit of help um, drying things just because I want to move faster and I want to do things in a certain order. I want to leave the eyes and the details for last. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this heat gun and dry everything so I can paint over it and fix things I don't like. That's better. So now I'm just gonna focus on working on all of these leaves and making them be color I want, and forget about these outlines with the same color because I'm gonna change them all to be dark at the end. Okay, so everything is dry now. I'm gonna add the details to my little sunflower button, the other button, and the button on her head for her bow as well. Okay, I think I have all of the base colors done. And I think I'm gonna outline and add details with the dark green as if it were black. And I hope this works. I'm not sure. Maybe it will still need black on top, but let's give it a try and see what happens, right? Especially the letters on top. I think these are gonna look good if I outline them. And I'm gonna be very careful because I don't want such a thick line. I want it to be thin. Luckily, these are brush nibs, so if I'm gentle, I can get thin lines. Okay, so I think I like the leaves where I didn't do the dark line in the middle better. And I'm also thinking the reason I don't like this one, it's because it should be two. Like, coming from like that and that. Okay, let me outline the bow and everything else, and then I'm going to decide on the dark centers or not. But I definitely need to change this to leaves. I'm going to let that dry and go ahead and outline everything else. And the other thing I'm going to do as I outline is make her a little bit fuzzier by making the lines break a little bit, which also makes it easier to outline actually. And because I'm using the green as black, I'm also going to add some stitching and details to the overalls. This is how it's looking. Now what I'm going to do is change these two leaves and see if I like them better by changing the lines on them. See how easy it is though to cover it, and you're going to see how fast once it dries I change the whole thing. Okay, so see, those are changed, and I'm actually going to leave the lines here. I just decided I want them to be like a little uneven and start thinner, and that makes me like them more. And the last thing I'm gonna do is add some highlights. Ah, that was way too juicy. I swear, it's funny how many mistakes are just happening for this video on their own. once I try to show you how to fix them. So I picked up the excess paint with a Q-tip and I'm just gonna go over the eye again. Let me just let that dry for a minute. And because I know this marker is so juicy, it's because it's the first time I've used this one. I'm gonna clean it a little bit so I don't have as much ink. Let me dry it here. And I'm gonna do a little bit of highlights and the thread for the buttons to finish the drawing. Okay, so highlights done, and here's what the drawing is looking like. But because I did stain the background and it's not centered, it's a little too high, I'm going to work on the background now, adding some color and figuring out how to make it look like me not centering was intentional, which it wasn't. In order to fix the background, I am going to tape a rectangle behind my drawing like a background, but I'm also going to offset it to balance out the main drawing. For this, I'm going to offset my rectangle to the bottom of the page, balancing the puppy, which is offset to the top. Then I simply colored the ground and background, and both colors needed for me to go over them with a second layer of paint, which was expected because I'm using watercolor paper. With that done, I use a white marker to add more detail by drawing stripes in the back. Then, with the same green I outlined the drawing, I drew a line to separate the ground and little sets of lines to represent grass. Used a heat gun to help everything dry and to go over the washi tape so I can heat it and it won't rip my paper once I pull it. Okay, it's done. Here it is. I finished. I think it looks great. And mostly, I hope me coloring this illustration without a plan helps you lose a little bit of the fear of adding color to your drawings, especially if you're using acrylic markers. They're very forgiving. You can fix a lot of your mistakes, like you saw with me. And yeah, now I'm gonna switch to voiceover for the next ideas because turns out I'm a little bit of a yapper and I just want to share these ideas with you before you get bored with me and my voice. So let's go to the next page and to voiceover. For this next page, I taped the border around the spread and I started drawing some flowers directly with the markers. No pencil guidelines this time. I made every petal squared and geometric because I wanted the whole composition to follow the limits of that border. For the stem, I just created two straight lines. My idea was to fill the space with florals that, instead of curving organically, had these sharper, more structured shapes. I also added a little bird, and as I filled the negative space with other elements, like the blue branch I'm drawing, you'll see me trying to fit everything into the exact spaces I had available, even shaping the leaves to match the gaps. To balance the bird at the bottom, I drew a second one flying in from the top left corner. And I still had a little bit of space left, so I squeezed in another flower. And because I did not sketch this with pencil first, it came out really awkward. I hated this flower the moment I filled it in. But because I am using acrylic markers, I wasn't too worried because, I can fix it later. Before touching that mistake, I started filling in most of the shapes with solid color, except for the flowers because I wanted to fix their shapes first so they could interact better. I corrected the petals on the second flower, and then based on that, I redrew the first one using my darkest shade of pink. Then it was time to paint the background. I wanted to do this before adding a second layer of paint to the flowers so I could clean up any mistakes while outlining. And as you can see, there were plenty. Of course, the background needed extra layers in the areas where I changed my mind and redrew things, so I went in and evened that out. And after that, I made everything more opaque by adding another pass of color and painting slightly over the borders of each shape so they wouldn't look jagged against the background. As I worked, I kept adjusting the flowers, fixing their shapes, and how they connected to each other. When I was finally happy, I dried everything using the heat gun, and then I started adding details on top using the same colors from the palette. The only new color I introduced was a light yellow. I added an extra heart to fill that tiny little empty spot, and then I tried outlining the second flower and adding some line work to it too, but it looked terrible, so of course I just covered it with more acrylic paint and left it as it was. Then I peeled off the tape, and here's the second page of the day. Honestly, I think it turned out really, really nice. Moving on, I wanted to create something using the same colors, and for some reason, I thought I'd draw another leaf. I'm regretting this already. Maybe because I wanted both sides of the spread to match? I don't know. Once I had the first leaf down, I committed to the idea and added two more types of leaves on top of that, and I filled them in completely. And because I've drawn leaves so many times, I wanted to try something different. So I added flowers similar to the ones on the opposite page inside the leaf as a pattern, which I immediately disliked. It looked weird. So I tried drawing on top of that and adding more details and light work, and I was still not loving it. So I just moved on to the second leaf, hoping something better would come out. Here I used geometric patterns again, concentric circles with the same colors again. And I finished, and I wasn't crazy about it, but still I outlined it and moved on. Then came the third leaf. And honestly, I think this one's the worst. I started adding these random marks on each one, and individually, they look kind of tribal. Uh, but together, I don't know. They don't look like leaves at all. But I normally try to trust the process, so I kept adding and adding. But by then, my heart wasn't in it anymore because I already saw the whole page as a massive fail. Still, I outlined it to finish it, I guess. It's done, but I have to be honest, I don't like this one at all. I mean, I don't know, it was fun and relaxing to paint because I had the smooth acrylic background on and then the other colors just slide, but it's ugly. Okay, or at least I think it's ugly. And yeah, but what I do want to say about this one is that creating pages like this one, where you experiment a little bit more freely and you use any pattern and you do whatever you want, it's really how you get to making things you actually love. You need these, let's call them mistakes, to move forward. And on the other hand, this one I love. So, I mean, it's okay. Two that I love, one that I don't like. It's fine. So, I have time for one more today. So let's move on. So, yeah, I'm looking at it again, and you can't believe the impulse I have to take some paint and just cover this page and do something on top. But I think today I'm going to really just flip over it and resist the feeling, even though, like, look at it. It looks so, like, bad next to this one, which I think it's so beautiful. So it's really hard for me right now to not take some paint and just cover this, maybe take some pink, a bright pink paint and cover the entire page and make something prettier. But at the same time, I really want to communicate to you that this is just a sketchbook and it's okay to have pages that are like this. I normally keep my sketchbooks that I share in the channel being more pretty, because I like to flip through and because I'm sharing nice ideas with you. But in my personal sketchbooks, there are pages that I just hate and I just go flip and move on. So that's what I'm going to do today. Let's just move on to the next idea. And yeah, let's see what I can do now. My confidence wasn't very high after that last page. And because November is my birth month, and I remember I'd saved an illustration by an artist I love, Carolyn Gavin, I use her piece as inspiration. And of course, I'll tag all of her details in the description. Looking at her artwork, I sketched a cake. Mine ended up being two tiers with a strawberry, a flower, and a pear as toppers. And of course, like I said, birthday, so mine had a birthday candle. I drew everything directly with markers, including the cake stand, staying pretty close to the vibe of her piece. Once the base drawing was done, though, I stopped looking at the reference and I just did my own thing, starting with solid color for the bottom tier. And while I work on this, I want to talk about something I touched on earlier: how I became confident enough to work in my sketchbook every single day and share it. One big part of that confidence came from learning to accept pages like the one I showed you before and moving on from them way faster than what I did in this video. Here it is harder for me because I'm creating pages I plan to show you, so I linger and I try to fix things. But in my private sketchbook, I mess up, I learn what I can, and I just move forward. I try the idea again, or I just turn the page and start something new. Because maybe later I'll come back to it and paint over it, but maybe not. The point is, I just keep going. We treat our sketchbooks like they are these precious objects, but at the end of the day, it's just paper in a book that closes. No one has to see it, and you can use the cheapest sketchbook on the planet if it helps you loosen up. And I know social media makes it harder. We are constantly seeing these pristine, gorgeous sketchbooks by incredibly skilled artists. But trust me, their first sketchbooks did not look like that. They also had pages full of wonky drawings and weird color choices, and they also had to start somewhere. So maybe instead of trying to hit a home run on your first try, give yourself permission to intentionally ruin a sketchbook. Make ugly pages, fill a whole book or two with experiments. Throw paint at it, just try things because there is so much joy in the process. Like on that previous page again, I did not like the final result at all, but I love the feeling of the acrylic markers gliding over an acrylic base. I love the experimentation. And acrylic markers are incredibly forgiving. They can help you quiet that perfectionist fear and let you fix little mistakes so much easily so you don't have to trash an entire page. Anyhow, once I finished coloring the cake illustration, I dried it a little bit and added a second layer where I needed it. Plus some more details and texture. I lit my little birthday candle, added highlights, and tried to make the details feel a little more me and a little less Carolyn. This is not an idea or page I would ever claim as my own, but it helped me get back into the mindset I wanted. It reminded me that making something I like and enjoy, even if it's inspired by someone else, can be a perfect reset, a little success that helps me create the next idea from my own mind. And that's it. With that, we've reached the end of today's video. Here are all the pages we created today. And honestly, the page I don't like, it doesn't look as bad anymore because sometimes distance and a little time helps. And having it next to a page I like also helps a little bit. But more than my results, what I hope you take from this video is a fresh mindset for approaching your own sketchbook. That's it. I hope you're having the most wonderful day and that I'll see you next Friday with a brand new video. Bye.